Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Thijs Van Loon with us today. Thijs has occupied cool roles at Google, Apple, and is now the founder at BetterWorks Asia. He's a management consultant there, master trainer and coach. Very interesting background from the Netherlands, lives in Vietnam right now, and I am talking to you from Oaxaca, Mexico. Canadian from Montreal in Oaxaca, Mexico. This pod today is brought to you by podfire.com. That's my podcasting company. If you want to start your own podcast, scale it to the sky, you can go to podfire.com. Thijs, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and Better Works Asia.
Thank you, Charles. So yeah, something about myself. I think probably the easiest thing to say about myself is uh yeah, I'm a natural born trainer. I don't want to pound myself on the chest, but it basically comes from the belief that the only thing I found that I was completely sure about in my life was to be a trainer. And I found this out about 20 years ago when I worked at Google. I was working at that point in the marketing part, and I was always fascinated by training. And at some stage, a training position opened in Google, and I thought, all right, I'm going to jump on that. So I did. And since then, I don't really want to do anything else anymore. So since then, I've just learned how to be a trainer. Done that now for, like I said, almost 20 years. Worked for Google, Apple, a couple of other companies in between, but those are the two main ones. And I moved to Southeast Asia about 7 years. Well, 7 years ago, I quit my job at Apple, moved to Southeast Asia, came here about 6 years ago in Vietnam, and started my company there, BetterWorks Asia, because still my passion is training and coaching. But I also found that so many people here in Vietnam really need to build that kind of skill. It's not really something that is that common here yet. And I really wanted to pioneer that for as far as I could. So yeah, that's a bit of the background and the story, and I'm still here. So it seems to be going okay.
Just like you're born trainer, I think I was born a middleman, a merchant, a salesman. I'm currently, that's my genetics, right? Like my granddad was a salesman, my dad's a marketer, and so forth. Um, but trainer, like, I mean, there's not a lot of trainers, quote unquote, out there. Like, what do you train lions or?
I wish I did. That would actually be quite cool. No, for me, training actually started as helping people do things better. And that's what I found when I started to become a trainer. The beginning 6 months, I actually really loved being in the spotlight and tell people how things worked. But after 6 months, that actually kind of got boring. And I started finding out that even though how small, I would actually provide a little bit of help, a little bit of support for people who I train. And actually through that, see them do better in their career or on a personal scale or stuff like that. And once I started to find that out, that was so much more rewarding for me, you know? So that's where I found that part really suits me, that no matter how small, I do help and I do get people somewhere.
So synonyms to trainer could be coach or friends, mentor, sort of. Tony Robbins seems like a great trainer, right?
Yeah.
Create serotonin, you create motivations, you create loops so that people repeat, and get better on a daily basis. You did that at Apple, you did that at Google. Tell us for what product precisely and the methods that you use to train these people.
So at Google, it started actually much more at technical support and at implementation support for one of the products of the past, which was called AdSense. So AdSense was a product that allowed you to use your site and reserve a certain spot. That's where Google would put ads, and I would actually train people in the teams to ensure that they could deal with the customers correctly. Payments were done, pretty much the whole product side of it. After that, I started doing much more stuff around, professional skills. So things around how to present, how to be personally more effective, how to do phone support, how to sell, but then more towards like more pages on the site would actually become populated by Google Ads. And also a lot of things around new hire introduction training, right? So at Google for about 2 years, I was the first person people would see if they'd start working at Google. So that was kind of like a broad spectrum. So I was there as a trainer for about 3.5 years, moved back to the Netherlands, and then after a few bits and bobs, I came at Apple 2011, and I became the head sales trainer for the Netherlands. So I did actually all the sales trainings for B2B, then B2C, also education sales, all that stuff. And 2 years later, I was asked by the central team to join the European team in Apple. And there I actually did sales training too, but I also started training trainers and coaching salespeople and basically building a whole support system in order to build training, help build training content, because there were separate teams that did that, but also where I'd be the person who would mentor trainers both inside of Apple, but also external trainers Apple would hire in order to run all these workshops for sales, through Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India. So that was quite, broad. So that made me actually learn a lot of things around training and coaching. And I've done quite a few extra courses myself as well to improve, to get feedback, to develop myself. And that's an ongoing process. I'm 48 years old now, but man, I'm still learning more. That every day it seems that I learn more. It's fantastic.
Yeah, as we go, I think it's quite normal because our curiosity is open and there's more ideas coming from the concepts we study. So that's always a good sign. If you're learning more by the day, it's the same for me, and it's fascinating this world just to be curious and to learn every day. Now, Apple doesn't sell much. I mean, you enter the store and you just have the best products ever, right? So what kind of sales were there while you were there?
Well, the sales was usually around when it came to the consumer product side, right? It was all iPad, iPhone, MacBook, and of course Apple Watch that was launched in 2015, right? Announced 2014, announced or launched 2015. And the whole new setup around that also became something that we focus on selling. And but if you say, well, you don't see many products, yeah, to an extent, right? The range of products is quite small. But the whole trick for Apple was like, look, let's not just do the sale for the product, but let's create the experience where people are coming in and where people are actually, feeling that they get an experience from the perspective of like, the people in the store, not just the store itself, because the people really make that those stores thrive, right? And we were the ones who ensured that those people would be able to entertain people, but of course also to make sure that they buy the things that were actually of need for them, right? And that was sometimes a bit of a challenge, especially in the bit of a quieter areas that sometimes these stores are also late. So
I guess
interesting
the
that.
best sales is being helpful, right? And presenting a potential solution to the customer with a problem.
Well, yeah, to an extent that is, but I think some customers also don't know really what their problem is. And what I found out, especially about sales, is that you need to understand what pain people have. Because when you understand, let's say that I have a conversation with you and I find out like, look, if you think about buying, let's say, a new microphone, right? One of the things I would ask you is like, well, can you name 3 things that you really don't like about the microphone you're using currently? Right? Because then what you name is not only the stuff that you might be missing, but also the things that are really important to you. And then when I open up that gap a little bit more, the pain becomes more evident. And you'll be like, yeah, damn, that's something that hurts. I need something new, right? And as a result, you're more inclined to listen to me, and you're more inclined to listen to my advice. And I'm in a better position to advise you.
So asking questions, having an open mind, and continuing being curious.
Yeah.
Now, how do you bring these skills that you've acquired as a trainer, quote unquote, at Apple, at Google? How do you bring that to Asia Works and Better Works Asia and with your current clients? What do you offer them precisely at what price point and what problems do you fix for your clients?
Ooh, that's a very that's a big question because they can go in different directions. So first and foremost, I offer people trainings. So three pillars I do, right? The first one is training, workshops, and focus on typically professional skills, anything like sales, negotiation skills, leadership and management, and all these kind of topics. Second pillar for me is consulting. So I help organizations, for example, set up a training team, create a strategy for their learning inside their organization, and do this in such a way that it supports, whatever system they have there. And the third part is coaching. So I provide people with one-on-one coaching, especially with mid to senior level managers, and I use different methods for that, depending on what they want and what I think is most suitable for them. So the way that I do that is essentially I provide people with training around typically a price point for around 1,000 to 1,500 USD per day. That's for like full day trainings. That includes like the preparation and things like that. I will add extra services depending on what people would like. One of these things you can think of is like a training needs analysis, extra evaluation parts, and also interviews with, for example, peers to check if people's behavior has actually changed after the training. So through that, I basically built a complete service program for training and learning, either for like a specific course or a set of courses, or in certain cases, a complete setup for a company that says, look, we don't have a learning program, we have no strategy, we need somebody to build that for us, right? And that's how I help people out essentially by customizing and building whatever it is they need.
Interesting. How do you get these clients?
Well, I honestly, I always networked a lot. So when I came to Southeast Asia, I basically just started looking around, like, okay, so can I do some networking events? And from there, I got to a co-working space, and in one of these co-working spaces, um, I was like, hey, these people are nice. How about I do some extra training for you guys? And they're like, yeah, that's cool. So I actually took them in a room at some stage and did a bunch of workshops around leadership, presentation skills, and time management. It's very simple topics. And that really caught on. So at some stage, they started marketing for me. I pulled in more people, and through that, my business started to grow slowly but steadily. And then through, joining, for example, business associations and other networking groups, I basically build out my repertoire. And as a result, lots of people started asking me for more different kinds of trainings. And as a result of that, I actually built about 30 plus, 40 plus professional skills trainings that I have now in my repertoire. And that's anything from like change management, leadership and management, delegation skills, specific things around personality styles, team building, train the trainer, you name it, right? I run it. And that is because I understand the concept of training really well. I understand how people learn. And when you do that, you can pretty much build anything for them, right? But you do have to become a bit of an expert on each of these fields. And that requires a lot of study, which is basically what I do. But lots of it has been word of mouth, to go a little bit more into your question. Lots of it has been word of mouth. And actually, since the last month, I've started focusing more on also building my personal profile, redoing my website, focusing more on LinkedIn, writing articles, doing podcasts. So all these things are now in the works in order to build up my name a bit more and to ensure that I go a little bit beyond, what I can do myself. Because running every night to a networking event at some stage it gets a little tiring. Although it's loads of fun, I really enjoy it. But there should be ways to do it easier and better. So marketing needs to happen now. And that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, tell me also about happiness and pizza 4Ps. You work there, Dream Lex as well. So tell me about these orgs.
So Dream Lex is a co-working space. That's one of the co-working spaces I've done quite a bit of trainings for, both for their members, but also for people in their management team. Been doing that for a couple of years. Happiness Solution is actually a Belgian company that also moved, towards the Netherlands, London, Germany, but also opened up an office here in Ho Chi Minh City. And for them, I've done also a whole slew of trainings around leadership skills, management, and negotiation. Pizza for Peace was actually my special project that I've done last year, and actually I'm still doing some work for them. So Pizza for Peace is the biggest pizza company here in Vietnam. It's been set up by a Japanese couple. They're a really nice bunch. but they also really focus on making people happy. That's literally their thing. It's like we want to support people to actually be happy. And one of the best ways to do that, or to start with at least, is to provide them with great food and great service. So for them, there was quite a bit of a need to build a training program and training strategy, because that was at this point not in place. But they had definitely a larger management deficit, because a lot of people had actually left Pizza for Peace over the last few years, because they train people so well and they have such good attitude that lots of other restaurants around them would actually just try and literally buy them away, and join those other teams. So a lot of the senior managers and such had left because they were bought away. And because of that management deficit, we needed to build both culture and also training as a result. So I came in there for about 9 months, worked very closely with the culture director, with the CEOs, with the operations director, in order to build a training program, an e-learning program, a 360 review program, skills matrix, and all the trainings needed. And I hired, or helped hire, the training team, the head of training, etc., to make sure that people would actually now do this in-house. And now after 9 months, it actually stands, and they're self-sufficient and doing fantastic. And here and there, I can still help out, which is great. So I'm gonna do that again in the next few months. But yeah, so those kind of projects I run here, and yeah, it's just fantastic, to be able to work with people like that and to help them train and be trained, and yeah, ensure that knowledge spreads.
And throughout your career, you've navigated between having your own companies and working for someone else. Why owning your own companies nowadays?
Mhm. Well, what I find is that you need to make good choices. I mean, what I see is that there is so much choice, or there's so much availability at some stage when people know what you can do. And I think one of my personal tricks is that I love doing everything, right? So when people come to me and say, "Hey, can you do this for me?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." And then, I do this, and I do that, and I do that. And it all works out because for some reason, or in some way, shape, or form, I'm always able to manage it and provide great quality. But I also notice that sometimes I feel myself a little bit stretched thin, you know, and that is because there's sometimes just too much going on. And I want to do everything fairly perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to like my own stuff. And because of that, there's just not always enough time to do it as well as I'd like. So what I've learned from that is, well, one, I need to make good choices and sometimes say no. That's a very difficult thing for me, but I'm working on it. But the other part is that it's not just saying no once. You actually need to keep saying no, or you need to be consistent in the way that you say no, to make sure that you can focus on the things that you are the best at and you can provide the most value for. And that's something I think that I've learned for combining having my own business, working with all these other businesses, and creating value for them, but also for myself. So yeah.
And what are your top goals this year? You told me a bit about your personal goals, that new diet and these brain optimizations. What are your goals, personal and business, this year?
So my personal goal is partially personal, partially business. So I've been doing a program that has been set up by a Russian Ukrainian man, like I think 50 years ago or something like that. That's called the Bronnikov-Vekleron methodology, which basically teaches you to use the natural energy of your body, to become both more healthy physically, but also more healthy mentally. I've learned this about 2.5 years ago, and it was for me a fantastic eye opener, because not only did it make me more healthy, especially in COVID time, that was a very cool thing, but also it made me much more stable, mentally speaking. I was sometimes very easy for me to be all over the place, and now I'm much more balanced, focused, centered, and in a more energetic state without any means necessary. But the other part of that is that it allows you to open up different parts of your brain as you keep practicing that method and add new levels and methods to that method. So my personal goal is, first of all, to ensure that I build that system up in such a way that those extra functions for my brain are going to become visible, right? Things like, an internal clock, things like internal energy meters, things like a very easy understanding and very quick learning of, for example, matrices with lots of information in it that allow me to take in information much faster and very correct. That just pops up and is always available. So that's a personal goal for me to actually start to master this year. And the second thing, and that's the business goal, is that I'm actually then also going to be qualified to run the first levels of that program for people here in Vietnam and beyond. And the reason why is because when you actually start to apply those kind of principles, then you'll be able to help people grow their team and see people as a network, right? Because when you start to understand that the energy levels inside of us can also be connected to others, then you actually understand that people are actually a network and not just an individual, right? Probably the easiest way to explain that is when I'm sitting here and you're sitting on the other side of the world, it's great that we build a connection and that we can see certain things and communicate effectively together. However, the best way still to connect with each other is to be in the same space. And lots of people don't really know why that is. Yeah, we can see and connect better because we can see each other closer. But for some reason, there is something else going on that we can't really describe. That other thing is energy. That stuff that we can actually connect to. We don't see it, but we can feel it. And through this, I can actually help people embrace it. And through that, people communicate, connect, be much more creative, be much healthier. And through that, it builds loads and loads of optimizations for companies and teams. And that's something I want to bring towards people in the next few years to come. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Thijs, where can people find out more about you online?
So you can find me on betterworks.asia. That's my website. And you can also find me on my personal profile on LinkedIn. I would say those are the two key places to go. And stay tuned because lots of information is coming for that in the next few months.